Close your eyes, take a slow, deep breath, and let the gentle quiet of the evening settle around you. Allow the noise of the modern world to fade away, step by step, leaving only the calm, rhythmic rise and fall of your breathing. Welcome to Sleepy Space Stories. If you enjoy unwinding with these peaceful journeys through time, please take a soft moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel to join our nightly voyages. Now, sink comfortably into your space, let go of the day, and let us begin our journey back to the very beginning, to Chapter 1. Chapter 1, A World of Water. We arrive in a time long forgotten, somewhere between 15 and 3 million years ago, during the golden, sunlit afternoons of the Miocene and Pliocene epochs. The planet beneath us is familiar, yet beautifully alien. The continents are still drifting into their modern places, leaving open, vast, shimmering marine corridors that no longer exist today. The climate is warm, enveloped in a soft, tropical greenhouse breeze that keeps the polar regions free of heavy ice, allowing the ocean currents to flow with an uninterrupted, sluggish warmth across the globe. Imagine standing on a silent, ancient shoreline. The water before you is not the dark, ice-cold blue of today's deep oceans, but a brilliant, glowing teal, soft and clear, warmed by an unyielding sun. The coastlines stretch endlessly, fringed with lush, prehistoric greenery and shallow, sun-drenched bays that extend for miles out into the gentle shelf. Because the world is so warm, sea levels are high, submerging wide expanses of land into broad, peaceful, shallow seas. These warm coastal waters are the beating heart of the prehistoric world, cradling a rich tapestry of life in a quiet, undisturbed sanctuary. As you drift further from the shore, sinking gently into the warm current, the water wraps around you like a heavy, weightless blanket. The sunlight streams downward through the surface in shimmering shafts of gold, illuminating an underwater paradise that stretches out in every direction. Below, sweeping meadows of ancient seagrass wave lazily in the swell, their green blades catching the light like liquid emeralds. Massive coral reefs, vibrant and sprawling, rise from the sea floor like submerged mountain ranges, teeming with countless species of radiant fish. Ancient sea turtles drifting unhurriedly through the turquoise glow, and primitive dugongs grazing peacefully along the sunlit shallows. This is an ocean of astounding, unimaginable abundance. The warm water carries a wealth of nutrients, fueling an explosion of life that fills every layer of the sea. Out in the deeper bays and coastal channels, the water swells with the slow, resonant songs of primitive whales. These are not the solitary giants of our modern freezing oceans, but a diverse and thriving family of marine mammals, perfectly suited for these gentle seas. Small, elegant baleen whales, no larger than a modern boat, glide in small, peaceful pods, their smooth bodies shimmering just beneath the surface as they scoop up shimmering clouds of tiny organisms. Alongside them swim early ancestors of the dolphin and porpoise, leaping effortlessly through the sunbeams, their slick skin catching the warm light before they plunge back into the deep. Everything in this primeval sea moves with a calm, untroubled rhythm. The days are long, the waters are thick with life, and the sea feels boundless, an endless cradle of light and warmth. You can hear the soft, rhythmic lull of the water swells a slow, continuous breathing of the earth itself, up and down, a soft, soothing murmur that has carried on for millions of years. The ocean feels safe, pristine, and infinitely patient, an entire ecosystem thriving in a perfect, delicate harmony beneath the golden rays of an ancient sun. Yet, as you drift deeper into this tranquil paradise, following the gentle slope of the continental shelf, where the sunny turquoise waters begin to transition into a cool, shadowed jade, the mood of the sea subtly shifts. The water grows deeper, denser, and quietly still. The light from above narrows into soft, shimmering threads that dissolve into the emerald gloom below. The small whales continue their peaceful journey, their slow tail flukes pushing them gracefully through the water column, entirely unaware of the vast, silent realm that opens up beneath them. Down in those cooler, deeper waters, where the sunlight barely reaches and the pressure hums with a quiet, ancient power, the true weight of the ocean reveals itself. Here, in the shadowy green vastness, something watches. It does not rush. It has no need to hurry, for it is the absolute master of this infinite realm. Far below the drifting pods of whales, deep within the dim, silent waters, a massive shadow slowly takes shape. It is immense, dwarfing everything around it, a phantom shape effortlessly carving through the dark emerald abyss. It moves with a slow, hypnotic grace, its massive tail swaying with barely a ripple, a silent titan sliding through the quiet depths of a world created just to feed its endless, timeless hunger. Chapter 2: The Shark That Swallowed the Sun. Then, almost imperceptibly, the light begins to change. It is not a cloud passing over the sun, nor is it the sudden arrival of storm clouds. It is a slow, majestic dimming. Above you, where the surface once shimmered with liquid gold, a shadow begins to spread. It starts as a subtle deepening of the blue, a quiet dimming of the daylight, as if evening were arriving hours ahead of its time. The shadow expands, stretching across the sky of the sea, gradually obscuring the sunbeam by sunbeam until the bright zenith above is gently eclipsed. You look up through the crystal water, and what you see is not just a creature, but a horizon in motion, a shadow so vast, so impossibly wide, that it blocks out the very sun itself. It moves with a terrifying, breathtaking grace, a living mountain drifting silently through the upper ocean, swallowing the light as it glides overhead. This is the Titan of the primeval deep. To behold this creature for the first time is to feel the smallness of everything else in existence. It does not hit you with sudden violence or chaotic speed. Rather, it impresses upon you with the sheer, crushing gravity of its existence. It moves with an unhurried, ancient confidence. This is an entity that has never, in its tens of millions of years of existence, known fear. It has never had to hide, never had to retreat, never had to yield the path to any other living thing. It moves because the sea belongs to it, carrying its vast bulk through the water with the effortless ease of a cloud drifting across a quiet sky. As the creature moves slowly above, the details of its geometry begin to take shape against the shadowed light. Its body is a masterpiece of fluid dynamics, refined over millions of years of natural design, yet scaled to a proportion that defies human imagination. If you were to look upon it, you might at first recognize the familiar, streamlined silhouette of a modern great white, but that comparison vanishes the moment your mind tries to grasp its actual scale. Where a modern shark is an agile blade, this creature is a vessel, a living submarine of muscle, cartilage, and dense, dark skin. Its body is broad and immense, tapering gracefully from a massive, rounded snout toward a tail of overwhelming power. Its coloration is the ultimate camouflage of the open ocean, an elegant study in contrast known as countershading. From above, its back is a deep slate charcoal, dark as the oceanic trench, blending seamlessly into the shadowy abyss beneath it. From below, its underbelly is a soft, muted cream, matching the pale, diffused light of the surface. To the creatures swimming below, it is nearly invisible against the sky. To those looking down from above, it disappears into the dark waters below. It is a creature woven directly into the fabric of the ocean itself. Look closer at the way it moves through the water. There is no frantic beating of fins, no restless expenditure of energy. Its massive crescent-shaped tail sways from side to side in slow, sweeping arcs. Each deliberate stroke pushes thousands of gallons of water, propelling a mass greater than an entire pod of modern whales with the quiet efficiency of a falling feather. Its broad pectoral fins, extending outward like the wings of a silent glider, make minute, subtle adjustments, guiding its vast body through the water column with absolute precision. It swims close enough that you can feel the pressure wave of its passage, a slow, heavy pulse in the water that hums against your skin like a low musical note. The water around it is displaced in long, smooth ribbons, swirling around its flanks and passing over the long, powerful slashes of its gill slits. Inside those dark openings, water flows endlessly over delicate structures, breathing life into a heart that beats with the slow, steady rhythm of the earth itself. This is not a monster born of nightmares or malice. It is something far grander and far more serene, the absolute apex of life on earth. It is nature operating at its most grand, ambitious scale. Every line of its form, every movement of its skin, every rise and fall of its powerful tail is an expression of perfect harmony with the sea. It exists in a state of quiet equilibrium with the world around it, a master of its realm that moves without urgency because the ocean provides for it endlessly. As you float there, watching the Titan glide overhead, the initial sense of awe settles into a deep, hypnotic calm. The scale of the creature no longer feels terrifying, it feels magnificent, like gazing up at a snow-capped mountain range or floating beneath the vast, star-filled canopy of the night sky. The universe is full of quiet giants, and here, in the warm, ancient waters of the Miocene, you are resting in the presence of the greatest of them all. The giant continues its slow, unhurried journey through the sunlit upper depths. The light, once blocked by its immense form, slowly begins to trickle back around its edges, casting a halo of golden beams around its massive silhouette. It glides forward, trailing a quiet wake that gently stirs the warm turquoise sea, moving toward the vast horizon where the sun-drenched shallows melt into the deep, mysterious ocean. You watch as its tail makes one final, majestic sweep, sending it drifting further into the emerald haze. The shadow gradually recedes, the bright, warm sunlight returns to fill the water around you, and the sea settles back into its peaceful, timeless murmur. Yet down in the depths, the memory of that ancient presence lingers, a reminder of a world ruled by quiet giants, moving through the deep, endless waters, slow and eternal, as you drift further and further toward rest. Chapter 3. Size Beyond Imagination. To truly understand what moved through these ancient seas, we must leave behind our ordinary human perspective. We live in a world measured in steps and handspans, where our immediate surroundings feel sturdy and familiar. But nature, in its long and patient history, has occasionally experimented with mass on a scale that completely shatters our sense of proportion. It has sculpted creatures so immensely large that they do not merely inhabit their environment, they become landscapes in their own right. Consider, for a moment, holding a single tooth from this legendary predator. Imagine sitting quietly by a warm fireside, cradling a dark, fossilized relic in both hands. It does not feel like a tooth from a living animal. It feels like a heavy piece of carved stone shaped like a dark blade. It is larger and heavier than a thick, hardcover book, filling the entire expanse of your open palms. The root is thick and dense, and the serrated edge, cool to the touch, stretches longer than the distance from your wrist to the tip of your middle finger. It is a terrifyingly beautiful object, refined by millions of years of evolution, meant not just to catch prey, but to effortlessly shear through bone and blubber. And this was merely one wedge among hundreds, set within a jaw that could open wide enough to swallow a family carriage without touching the sides. To picture the full creature, try to imagine a modern city bus, long, heavy, and sprawling, stretching across the roadway. Now, imagine wrapping that massive steel frame in solid, living muscle, coating it in dark, velvet-like skin, and sending it gliding silently through the sun-drenched water. From nose to tail, this creature could reach lengths that would span an entire neighborhood street. If it were to rest beside a 3-story building, its dorsal fin would brush against the top-floor windows, a towering monument of cartilage and flesh rising out of the water like the sail of an ancient wooden ship. When a creature reaches such astonishing mass, it fundamentally alters the physical space around it. Think of how the sea experiences a being of this size. As it moves through the water column, it does not slice through quietly like a small reef fish. It displaces entire currents. The ocean feels its approach long before it arrives. A thick, rhythmic bow wave pushes out ahead of its snout, a low-frequency hum of moving water that ripples through the liquid light for hundreds of yards. Small shoals of silver fish feel that deep pressure wave pass over them like a shift in the weather, scattering in instinctual wonder as the great weight glides overhead. From the perspective of an ancient whale, perhaps a gentle, medium-sized baleen whale resting near the surface, the presence of this titan was less like meeting an animal and more like encountering an oncoming geological force. The whale would feel a subtle change in the ocean's density, a heavy, quiet pull in the water as the creature swept beneath it. There was no chaotic splashing, no hurried thrashing of tail fins. The apex predator moved with a slow, magnificent economy of effort. Its heart beat with a slow, deep thrum, pumping life through a body so immense that every movement was calculated, graceful, and serene. It was a living island floating through an endless blue sky. Imagine suspended motionless in those clear, warm, prehistoric waters. The surface above you is a ceiling of liquid glass, refracting the late afternoon sun into long, shimmering ribbons of gold that dance lazily across your view. Below you, the turquoise sea fades gradually into a deep, velvety, emerald gloom. You are entirely weightless, cradled by the soft, warm current, breathing slowly and peacefully as the water supports every part of your body. Then, far down in that shadowed green abyss, the living island appears once more. It does not rise rapidly or aggressively. It simply drifts sideways through the deep, a massive dark silhouette rising gently from the depths like a submerged continent coming into view. As it passes directly beneath you, the sheer length of its body seems to take an eternity to glide by. First the broad, rounded snout, dark as basalt, then the long, sweeping curve of its powerful back, then the tall, iconic dorsal fin trailing behind like the keel of an ancient vessel, and finally, the long, sweeping crescent of its tail, moving with a rhythm so slow and rhythmic that it lulls the entire sea into a state of quiet, hypnotic stillness. The shadow passes, leaving behind a smooth, rolling wake that gently lifts and lowers you in the water, like being rocked in a quiet cradle. The water around you remains warm, clear, and perfectly still. The ancient titan continues its endless, unhurried patrol out toward the deep, dark edge of the continental shelf, dissolving smoothly into the distant emerald twilight. You are left floating peacefully in the quiet sea, wrapped in complete serenity, as the calm, eternal rhythm of the water carries you deeper and deeper into sleep. Chapter 4. The Ocean It Ruled. This was an ocean unlike any that exists today. It was a vast, unified kingdom of warmth and light, an endless watery blue highway that wrapped around a younger Earth. The climate of the planet was soft and balmy, permitting the sea to spill over the low edges of continents, filling vast basins with calm, shallow bays and shimmering coastal shelves. Tropical breezes blew continuously across the surface, stirring gentle waves that sparkled beneath a bright, unhurried sun. The water held a gentle, soothing warmth from the equator all the way to the high latitudes, creating a sanctuary where life flourished in unimaginable density and extraordinary variety. To understand this world, picture standing quietly on the edge of a submerged continental shelf, looking out across a realm where every drop of water was infused with vital energy. Beneath the surface, vast global currents moved like slow, deep rivers through the open sea. Where these cold, nutrient-rich, deep ocean currents collided with the rising slopes of ancient coastlines, they produced massive upwelling zones. Here, deep water rich in minerals rose toward the light, triggering an endless bloom of microscopic life that transformed the sea into a glowing, emerald pasture. These upwelling zones were the pulsing hearts of the Miocene Ocean. For miles in every direction, the water swirled with incredible abundance. Millions of silver fish danced in tight, mesmerizing spheres that shifted and gleamed like liquid moonlight. Schools of ancient squid darted through the dim, sun-dappled depths, their bodies changing color in hypnotic, silent rhythms. Above them, thousands of early sea turtles, their shells smooth and streamlined, paddled gracefully along the warm currents, traveling along routes that had remained unchanged for generations. Near the shores, where the open ocean softened into broad, quiet estuaries and fringing reefs, lay the shallow tropical lagoons. These were the nurseries of the ancient world. In these calm, crystalline shallows, protected from the heavy swell of the deep sea by barrier islands and sprawling coral formations, the water was as warm and gentle as a bath. Long beds of seagrass swayed softly in the current, casting flickering green shadows over the sandy sea floor. Here, young megalodons spent their earliest years, swimming alongside primitive rays and small reef fish, growing slowly and steadily in the safety of the sunlit shallows until they were large enough to venture out into the deeper, darker kingdom beyond. Out in the open sea, where the light green of the coast dissolved into the deep, bottomless blue of the open ocean, the real grandeur of this world revealed itself. The Miocene was the true age of whales. The oceans were filled with a vast and astonishing tapestry of cetaceans, far more varied than those alive today. Small, nimble baleen whales, their sleek bodies stretching no longer than a small sailboat, traveled in close, cooperative pods. They grazed peacefully on the dense clouds of plankton and small fish, their soft blows echoing across the mirror-like surface of the sea in quiet, rhythmic exhales that sounded like the sigh of the earth itself. Alongside these peaceful filter feeders swam early ancestors of modern dolphins and porpoises, their streamlined forms leaping effortlessly through the crests of sunny waves. Some carried long, narrow snouts lined with sharp teeth, specialized for snatching swift fish from the warm surface currents. Deeper down, primitive sperm whales, distant cousins of the modern giants, dove into the dark, silent trenches, searching for prey in the quiet abyss before rising back into the light to rest at the surface, their vast backs glistening under the sun. Above this submerged paradise, the sky belonged to giants of another kind, pelican-like seabirds with wingspans that stretched wider than small aircraft, glided effortlessly on the rising thermals of the warm ocean breezes. With long, slender wings held perfectly still, they circled for hours without a single flap, their keen eyes watching the blue expanse below. They watched the flickering silver clouds of fish, the slow migration of the sea turtles, and the massive dark silhouettes that glided through the clear water far beneath. It was a complete, self-sustaining world, a magnificent, glowing ecosystem operating in exquisite balance. Yet every creature in this vast ocean, from the smallest silverfish to the greatest baleen whale, lived in the quiet awareness of a single, undeniable truth. This entire world, with all its light, warmth, and abundance, belonged to one master. Megalodon held absolute, undisputed reign over the ancient seas. It did not merely inhabit the ocean, it defined it. At the absolute apex of the marine food chain, it moved through its kingdom without rival, without challenge, and without fear. In the modern world, even the largest predators must occasionally yield or share their territories with others. But in the Miocene Ocean, there was no creature that could stand against this titan. Other large predators existed: ancient sperm whales with formidable jaws and large predatory sharks, yet none possessed the crushing scale, the overwhelming power, or the total dominion of the great apex hunter. Everything else in the sea was either potential sustenance or simply too small to merit its attention. To live in the Miocene Sea was to live in the shadow of this quiet giant. For the pods of ancient whales, the presence of the great hunter was a fundamental condition of existence, an instinctual awareness woven deep into their daily lives. They did not live in a state of constant, panicked terror, for the ocean was vast and the hunter moved with a slow, measured patience. Instead, there was a deep, silent reverence that governed their movements. When the subtle pressure wave of the Titan's approach rippled through the water column, a quiet hush would fall over the sea. The songs of the whales would grow soft, their rhythmic leaps would cease, and pods would draw closer together, gliding silently through the sunbeams, watching the deep blue below with quiet vigilance. The Titan moved through its territory like an invisible monarch inspects a realm. It spent much of its time drifting along the outer edges of the coastal shelves and the rich upwelling zones, where the density of life was greatest. It followed the ancestral migration routes of the whale pods, floating silently beneath the traveling groups like a dark, living shadow. It required vast amounts of energy to sustain its colossal frame, yet it hunted not with frantic aggression, but with terrifying, calculated precision. It would track a pod from the cool, shadowy depths below, where its dark back made it entirely invisible against the abyss, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. When it did choose to move, the slow, hypnotic rhythm of its journey transformed instantly into a display of staggering physical force. A few powerful sweeps of its massive tail fin would propel its immense bulk upward through the water column like an underwater avalanche. With a single crushing strike delivered from below, it could disable even the largest whale of its era, bringing a swift and definitive end to the encounter. Yet, once the hunt was complete, the ocean would quickly return to its peaceful, timeless equilibrium. The Titan would consume what it needed, and then resume its slow, majestic cruise through the deep green waters, allowing the remaining life of the sea to settle back into its tranquil rhythm. As you float peacefully in the quiet sanctuary of your own mind, picture this ancient ocean in the quiet hours of late afternoon. The heavy sun hangs low on the horizon, casting a long golden road of light across the tranquil surface of the sea. The warm tropical breeze blows softly, carrying the mist of a distant whale's exhale across the calm water. Below the surface, the golden light filters down through the turquoise depths, shifting gradually into a soothing, velvety jade. All around, the sea is resting. The schools of silverfish move in slow, effortless circles near the coral reefs. The sea turtles float lazily along the warm, gentle current, their eyes half closed in the sun-drenched shallows. High above, a giant seabird tucks its long wings against the wind, drifting silently through the amber sky, and far below, gliding smoothly through the cool, shadowed realm where the light begins to fade. The great shadow moves onward. It moves with a calm, eternal grace, a silent guardian of a lost world, carving its path through the warm, ancient waters with effortless ease. The heavy, rhythmic thrum of its passage lulls the sea into a deep, uninterrupted peace. The ocean is vast, warm, and safe, wrapped in a stillness that has lasted for millions of years. You feel weightless, supported by the soft, endless rise and fall of the gentle swell. The golden light fades softly into deep, calming indigo, wrapping around you like a warm, protective blanket. The sounds of the ancient sea grow quieter and more distant, blending smoothly with the steady, quiet rhythm of your own breathing. There is nothing left to watch, nothing left to seek. The ancient ocean rests in complete, timeless stillness, carrying you gently, effortlessly, into a deep and dreamless sleep. Chapter 5: Senses in the Deep. To our human eyes, the vast underwater world can seem like a place of silence and profound obscurity. Beyond the sunlit surface layer, where the bright blue begins to fade into a cool velvet green, our sight fails us. The deep sea appears dark, mysterious, and shrouded in shadows. We imagine it as a quiet void where creatures stumble blindly through the murky depths. But to the titan that ruled these primeval waters, the ocean was never dark, never silent, and never hidden. To Megalodon, the sea was an illuminated tapestry of infinite detail. Where we would see only empty blue space, this ancient predator perceived a vibrant, three-dimensional landscape constructed entirely of energy, motion, and invisible currents. It inhabited a world of pure clarity, where every drop of water carried a message and every vibration told a story. The ocean was not an empty expanse through which it traveled. It was a living, breathing web of information that touched every inch of the creature's massive body. Imagine stepped inside that extraordinary mind, letting your own senses stretch outward until they merge with the quiet awareness of the great apex hunter. You are suspended in the deep green water, weightless and perfectly still. The slow, steady beat of your massive heart echoes gently through your frame, a calm and rhythmic pulse that keeps time with the ocean itself. You do not need to look with your eyes to know what lies around you. Your body is wrapped in sensory systems so refined, so astonishingly acute, that the sea feels entirely transparent. Running along the vast length of your body, from the tip of your broad snout down to the tip of your massive, crescent-shaped tail, lies an extraordinary sensory organ known as the lateral line. It is a subtle, fluid-filled channel buried just beneath your dark skin, opening to the ocean through thousands of microscopic pores. Inside these tiny canals, delicate clusters of microscopic hair-like cells float in a clear, sensitive gel, swaying with every minute movement of the water outside. Through this lateral line, you do not merely feel the water, you touch the space around you from a distance. Every tail flick of a distant fish, every slow beat of a sea turtle's flippers, every subtle shift in the oceanic currents sends a physical wave through the water. These waves travel through the dense, heavy sea, washing over your skin like a quiet, invisible brushstroke. As the water pulses against your pores, it paints an instantaneous, high-definition picture in your mind. You can feel the exact shape and movement of everything around you. A quarter-mile away, a dense school of small silver fish turns in perfect unison, their simultaneous shift creating a soft, rhythmic pressure wave that rolls gently across your flanks. Further off, near a sunlit coral shelf, the slow, heavy flippers of a grazing sirenian create wide, rolling eddies in the current, registering in your awareness like the gentle ripple of a breeze against a lake. You feel the contours of the sea floor below, the steep drop-offs of the continental shelf, and the slow, heavy upwelling of deep, cool currents rising from the abyss. Nothing moves within miles of your body without leaving an unmistakable fingerprint upon your skin as you float peacefully, listening to the soft pressure music of the ocean. Another layer of perception opens up, one that operates quietly at the very threshold of existence. Clustered around your broad snout and lower jaw are thousands of tiny, gel-filled pores called the ampullae of Lorenzini. These microscopic organs are nature's most exquisite electrical receivers, capable of detecting the most faint, subtle electrical charges produced by living flesh. Every time a living creature twitches a muscle, contracts a fin, or beats its heart, it generates a tiny, invisible field of bioelectricity. Water, rich in dissolved salts and minerals, is a perfect conductor of these faint signals. To human technology, these electrical pulses are nearly imperceptible, lost in the background noise of the world. But to you, floating silently in the ancient sea, they are as clear and distinct as soft lights glowing in the dark. Through these delicate pores, you can feel the quiet, rhythmic heartbeats of the sea. You feel the rapid, delicate pulse of a sleeping reef fish tucked deep inside a dark coral cave. You feel the slow, steady hum of an ancient sea turtle buried in the sandy floor beneath you. And far out in the open water, where the sunbeams fade into deep green haze, you can feel the heavy, powerful thrum of a baleen whale's heart. It reaches out through the liquid miles, a slow, deep, resonant pulse that whispers through the water column, declaring the animal's exact position, its size, and its rhythm of breathing. There is no hiding in this world. A creature can blend its skin seamlessly into the shadows of the sea floor. It can hold its breath and stay completely motionless in the dark, but it cannot stop the quiet electrical song of its own living heart. The ocean carries that signal straight to your snout, a clear and steady beacon guiding you through the quiet blue. And then, drifting upon the slow, warm currents, comes the third layer of your sensory universe, the sense of smell. Inside your massive snout are broad, highly folded olfactory chambers, lined with millions of specialized receptor cells. Unlike air, which carries scent quickly and unpredictably on the wind, ocean water holds chemical signatures in long, stable ribbons that stretch for miles across the sea. You inhale slowly, drawing warm seawater through your nostrils without ever letting it enter your throat. The water washes over the delicate sensory folds, releasing a rich narrative of the ocean ahead. You can taste the salt, the cool freshness of an approaching deep-sea current, and the faint, sweet trace of distant plankton blooms. But most clearly of all, you can detect the microscopic chemical signature of life. If a single drop of organic fluid dissolves into millions of gallons of seawater, your olfactory system detects it instantly. It does not feel like a sharp or overwhelming odor. It feels like a physical path unfolding before you in the dark. The scent forms a distinct, shimmering ribbon drifting through the water column, trailing behind a migrating pod of whales like a silk thread tied to their journey. By simply swaying your broad head slowly from side to side as you swim, comparing the concentration of scent between your left nostril and your right, you can follow that invisible road across endless miles of open ocean with perfect, effortless precision. When all these senses combine, they create an experience of the world that is complete, harmonious, and deeply peaceful. You do not experience these inputs as separate pieces of information. They merge into a single, seamless perception of reality. The pressure waves give you the physical shape of the ocean. The electrical fields reveal the inner life of every creature within reach, and the chemical trails map out the vast, interconnected journeys of the sea. You are suspended at the absolute center of a living sphere of awareness. There are no surprises in this world, no sudden shocks or chaotic confusion. Everything unfolds with a predictable, majestic rhythm. You know where the sea floor drops into the deep. You know where the warm surface currents meet the cold upwellings. You know the precise location, size, and speed of every living thing sharing these waters with you. The ocean is fully known to you, a vast and quiet home where you move as the ultimate master. Allow yourself to rest in that feeling of total mastery and total calm. Imagine the weightlessness of floating in that warm, ancient sea, feeling completely supported by the water, perfectly attuned to everything around you. Your breathing is slow and deep, mirroring the effortless, unhurried rhythm of the great Titan as it drifts through the quiet depths. The world is soft, peaceful, and beautifully ordered. As you float there, suspended in the gentle green stillness, your senses catch a subtle change in the distant waters. Miles away, near the deep edge of the continental shelf, where the light pales into dark indigo, a massive pressure wave begins to form. It is not the rapid, fluttering vibration of small fish, nor the familiar, steady pulse of the local whale pods. It is something far larger, pushing a heavy, rolling wall of water ahead of it as it moves slowly through the abyss. A moment later, a deep, resonant electrical rhythm reaches your snout, a heart beating with a heavy, deliberate thrum that vibrates through the very floor of the ocean. And along the warm current, a new distinct scent ribbon begins to unfurl, rich and ancient, drifting silently toward you through the dark emerald gloom. Something vast is swimming out there in the deep. It is moving slowly, deliberately, carving its way through the quiet waters toward your realm. But there is no hurry, no need to move just yet. The ocean is vast, the night is long, and the warm currents will continue to carry you gently through the quiet dark, drifting deeper and deeper into a peaceful, dreamless sleep. Chapter 6. The Hunt. The afternoon light hangs low over the ancient Pacific, painting the surface in long, liquid ribbons of amber and soft rose. A gentle swell rolls across the open water, lifting and lowering a small family of baleen whales as they drift along their migration route. The largest among them, a 10-meter mother, moves with a tranquil, deliberate rhythm, her smooth grey flank catching the last warm rays of the fading sun. Beside her, the water is calm and quiet, save for the soft, mist-filled sigh of her exhale rising into the cool air. For hours, they have been floating in this golden twilight, wrapped in the vast, peaceful solitude of the warm sea. The ocean around them feels endless, gentle, and utterly secure, carrying them onward as it has for countless generations. Yet, deep below this peaceful surface, where the sunbeams narrow into faint threads of silver and the warm turquoise melts into a dark, shadowy jade, the ocean tells a different story. Hundreds of feet down in the cool, silent twilight, a shadow of incomprehensible scale is tracking the pod. The giant apex hunter glides through the deep water, completely invisible from above. It does not swim with frantic speed or aggressive urgency. It moves with a slow, hypnotic patience, its massive tail sweeping in wide, languid arcs that push its immense bulk forward with total silence. From this depth, looking up toward the illuminated roof of the sea, the shark sees the dark, graceful silhouettes of the whales outlined against the glowing sky. To the hunter, the ocean is not a place of chaotic struggle, but a perfectly legible board where every piece moves according to ancient, unwritten rules. The giant begins its ascent. It does not charge directly upward, but angled gently, ascending along a wide, sweeping spiral that keeps it firmly hidden within the dark waters below. Every movement is calculated with the precision of a celestial orbit. As it rises, its lateral line registers every subtle shift in the water pressure above, mapping the exact position of the whale's tail flukes, the distance between its pectoral fins, and the steady, unhurried rhythm of its heart. The strategy is not one of senseless violence, but of absolute, devastating efficiency, a hunting method refined over tens of millions of years. It will not strike at the thick body first. It will dismantle the whale's ability to move, turning a majestic traveler of the open ocean into a stationary target in a matter of seconds. From the whale's perspective, the first sign of danger is not a sight or a sound, but a subtle change in the sea itself. The water around her flank suddenly feels heavier, lifted slightly by a massive pressure wave rising from the abyss below. An instinctive, ancient alarm ripples through her body, a quiet shudder that causes her to pause her gentle stroke. But before she can sweep her powerful tail to dive or flee, the shadowy deep erupts. The strike comes from directly underneath with terrifying, magnificent power. The massive hunter surges out of the dark emerald gloom, its vast jaws opening wide as it hits the whale's tailstock from below. There is no chaotic thrashing, only a single, crushing impact that echoes through the water column like a crack of thunder. The force of the strike shatters the heavy bones of the tail and severs the dense muscle, instantly disabling the whale's primary engine of movement. The great hunter does not hold on. It releases immediately and glides smoothly back down into the shadowy depths, letting momentum carry it in a wide, elegant turn as the sea absorbs the shock of the encounter. From a distance, looking on through the clear, sunlit water, the event unfolds less like an act of cruelty and more like a grand, inevitable law of nature taking shape. It is a spectacle of pure physical power and exquisite design, as ancient as the tides themselves. The sea has seen this moment 10,000 times before, and it will see it 10,000 times again. The injured whale floats at the surface, immobilized and quiet, surrounded by the warm, golden light of the setting sun, while far below, the titan prepares for its final, patient return. The Titan rises a second time, slow and unhurried. With the prey immobilized, there is no need for force or speed. It approaches from the side, its massive snout pushing a gentle bow wave that lifts the quiet water around the whale. The final bite is delivered with calm, mechanical precision, targeting the rib cage to reach the vital organs beneath. The immense pressure of those serrated, stone-like teeth brings a swift, definitive conclusion to the sequence. The struggle is brief, quiet, and complete, honoring the eternal rhythm of an ocean that gives life in vast abundance and reclaims it with absolute authority. Shortly after, the grand cycle of the deep ocean takes over. The great hunter feeds calmly, taking what its massive body requires from the bounty of the sea. What remains will sink slowly down into the dark, cold, abyssal plains below, nourishing thousands of smaller creatures, deep-sea crabs, and primitive scavengers for months to come. Nothing in this ancient world is wasted. Every life is a loan from the sea, returned eventually to fuel the vast, interconnected web of existence. As the sun finally sinks beneath the western horizon, casting a blanket of deep indigo across the calm water, the ocean settles back into its timeless, peaceful silence. The ripples from the encounter flatten into smooth, glassy swells that reflect the emerging stars above. The warm tropical breeze blows softly over the water, carrying away the last traces of mist. Far below the surface, suspended in the cool, dark green currents where the light has faded into night, the great shadow glides onward, its appetite satisfied. Its massive tail sways in slow, effortless arcs, propelling it gently through the vast, quiet realm it has ruled for millions of years. It moves without hurry, without fear, floating peacefully through the dark ocean, a silent guardian of deep time. The sea is still, warm, and broad, holding you gently in its calm, weightless embrace. The slow, rhythmic rise and fall of the water mirrors the deep, steady cadence of your breathing. Everything in this ancient world has returned to rest, wrapped in a serene, unbroken quiet that stretches across the vast expanse of the night, carrying you gently, effortlessly into the deepest levels of sleep. Chapter 7: Feeding and the Kill. The sea has a way of restoring its quiet dignity, even after the grandest displays of natural power. In the quiet wake of the great hunt, as the twilight air settles cool and heavy over the warm Pacific, the ocean enters a state of deep, reflective stillness. The giant apex hunter glides effortlessly beside its prize, its massive fins making tiny, precise adjustments in the clear water. There is no frantic rush to feast, no desperate, chaotic tearing of flesh. The Titan moves with the calm, methodical ease of a creature that exists far beyond the threat of competition. It feeds slowly, using its massive triangular teeth to carve through blubber and bone with astonishing, smooth precision. Every bite is an exercise in quiet efficiency, refined over millions of years of evolutionary mastery, sustained by a body that requires vast sustenance, yet moves with complete, meditative patience. As the Titan feeds in the fading light, the ocean around it quietly begins to wake with a different kind of energy. The scent of the harvest, rich and dense, diffuses slowly into the surrounding currents, drifting like an invisible ribbon across miles of open blue. From the sunlit surface to the dim, emerald depths below, the ocean's lesser inhabitants begin to gather at the periphery. High above, where the evening sky turns a deep velvet violet, giant seabirds wheel in slow, wide circles, their long, slender wings catching the soft thermal currents. They drop down gently, resting on the surface like floating embers, waiting with quiet patience for their turn at the bounty. Below the surface, just beyond the reach of the massive tail, a broad ring of smaller scavengers forms in the shadows. Primitive reef sharks, slender and swift, dart through the sunbeams in restless, rhythmic loops. Early species of dogfish and deep-sea scavengers emerge from the cool gloom below, drawn by the irresistible chemical path drifting on the current. They keep a respectful, instinctual distance from the Titan, their quick, delicate movements contrasting sharply with the massive, unhurried presence at the center of the scene. They are the cleanup crew of the primeval ocean, waiting for the giant to finish, knowing that in the grand economy of the sea, nothing is ever lost, and every life eventually feeds 1,000 others. Eventually, the great apex hunter draws back from the harvest, its immense appetite fully satisfied. The giant body, heavy and sated, turns slowly away from the surface waters, angling its broad snout back down toward the deep. It does not beat its massive tail with urgency. It simply allows its dense, muscular frame to sink gently into the shadowy green abyss. Step by step, depth by depth, the light from above begins to fade once more. The amber glow of the setting sun shrinks into a soft, shimmering disk, then into a pale thread of silver, before finally dissolving completely into the cool, dark indigo of the lower seafloor. Down here, far beneath the reach of waves and wind, the water is cool, dense, and infinitely quiet. The pressure wraps around the giant like a heavy, protective blanket, supporting its vast weight without effort. The Titan levels out, floating motionless in the midnight blue, its heart beating with a slow, steady, rhythmic thrum that resonates softly through the dark water. The hunt is over. The long, patient cycle of waiting begins anew. The creature breathes slowly, drawing the cool water continuously over its gills, entering a state of serene, waking rest, completely at home in the silent depths of its boundless kingdom. High above, in the sunlit world of the upper ocean, life carries on its gentle, eternal dance. The smaller scavengers move in to share what remains. The giant birds glide silently through the darkening sky, and the warm tropical currents continue their endless, soothing drift across the globe. The sea remains vast, beautiful, and peaceful, holding both the quiet surface and the ancient Titan in its vast, weightless embrace, rocking the world into a deep and timeless sleep. Chapter 8: Migration Patterns. To live in the ancient ocean was to exist in a state of perpetual, unhurried motion, guided by the grand and invisible clocks of the earth itself. The sea was never still, and neither were the giants that called it home. Far beyond the localized nursery bays and the rich, sun-drenched feeding shelves, a vast global highway stretched out beneath the waves, a network of unseen aquatic roads carved by seasonal winds, shifting thermal currents, and the timeless migrations of life. For the great Titan of the deep, the ocean was not a collection of separate seas, but a single, continuous realm of endless travel. It was a creature born to the open water, moving through the vastness not out of restless discontent, but in perfect harmony with the changing seasons. When the warm golden sun began to tilt lower in the afternoon sky, signaling the quiet arrival of a shift in global weather, a profound instinct awoke within the creature's immense body. The sea floor, the familiar coastlines, and the quiet reef systems were left behind as the Titan turned its broad snout toward the endless blue horizon. The scale of these seasonal journeys spanned entire ocean basins, crossing thousands of leagues of uninterrupted water. To journey across such distances was to experience the living pulse of the planet in its most intimate form. As the giant glided effortlessly forward, day after peaceful day, the water around it began to subtly change. In the high summer feeding grounds, the ocean had been rich, heavy, and cool, dense with the nutrient-packed upwellings that sustained vast herds of traveling whales. But as the Titan pressed steadily southward, the water gradually softened, transforming into a lighter, balmier turquoise that wrapped around its massive frame like a soothing embrace. From inside that endless migration, the ocean felt like a breathing, living corridor of shifting temperatures and changing soundscapes. The Titan moved like a slow, patient current within a larger current, its broad pectoral fins extended like wings, riding the thermal rivers that flowed across the globe. Along the way, it was never truly alone. The entire sea was on the move, engaged in a grand, quiet choreography. Above, vast flocks of prehistoric seabirds rode the warm trade winds in endless formation, their shadows sweeping like tiny dust motes across the sea surface. Beside and below the Titan, gentle herds of baleen whales moved in steady, synchronized pods, their low-frequency songs echoing across the dark oceanic trenches like deep, resonant organ notes drifting through a cathedral. Even the smallest creatures joined this quiet pilgrimage. Billions of tiny silver fish, sea turtles carrying centuries of memory in their slow flippers, and soft, glowing jellyfish floating like lost stars in the deep indigo waters. Every living thing was answering the same silent call of the turning earth. There was a profound peace to this endless journey. The Titan did not rush its passage across the ocean. With no rivals to fear and no boundaries to constrain it, it traveled with a rhythmic, hypnotic ease. A single, sweeping curve of its powerful tail would send its massive bulk gliding through the water for scores of yards, suspended in a weightless, dreamlike state between the dark abyss below and the shimmering light above. The passage of time lost all meaning. Day dissolved smoothly into night, the golden sunbeams of afternoon giving way to the soft, silver glow of the moon filtering through the clear surface glass. As the weeks melted into months, the long journey gradually brought the great hunter to the quiet, crystal-clear lagoons of its tropical destinations. Here, in the shallow, sun-warmed waters, the sea was calm, still, and cradled by protective reefs. It was a place of rest, a sanctuary where generations of these ancient giants returned to give life to a new generation before turning back toward the deep, cool feeding grounds once more. Floating in these peaceful tropical shallows, the Titan would slowly turn, feeling the warm, familiar current hold it in gentle suspension. The long voyage across the vast ocean basin was complete for now, the cycle fulfilled, the great highway traveled once again. The ocean breathed its long, quiet breath, holding the world in an unbroken, peaceful rhythm, carrying every creature forward through the quiet blue, deeper and deeper into the serene darkness of night. Chapter 9. The Nursery. There is a profound softness hidden within the grandest cycles of the natural world. Long before the great apex hunter becomes the undisputed monarch of the open ocean, before its dark shadow ever falls across the deep abyssal trenches or alters the path of migrating whale pods, its story begins in a place of deep, sun-drenched tranquility, far away from the cold, turbulent currents of the open sea. The ocean provides sanctuary, a quiet, shallow cradle where the titan of the deep is born into a world of light, warmth, and gentle protection. Picture floating in one of these ancient, primeval nurseries. The setting is a broad, sheltered lagoon along a tropical coastline millions of years ago. The water here is not the bottomless indigo of the open ocean, but a brilliant, glowing emerald, clear as liquid glass and as warm as a sun-heated bath. Fringing barrier reefs break the force of the outer sea, transforming the heavy swells of the Pacific into soft, rhythmic ripples that lap peacefully against white sandbars. Thick forests of ancient mangrove roots reach down into the clear shallows, their tangled wooden arches creating an intricate labyrinth of shade and shelter. Sunlight streams down in bright, golden lattice patterns, illuminating beds of vibrant seagrass that sway lazily in the slow, tide-driven breeze. Into these calm, protected shallows comes the Great Mother. Her presence in the narrow channels is breathtaking, her massive form filling the sunlit basin like a submerged island resting in the sand. Yet here, in these quiet waters, her movements are exceptionally soft, almost tender. She has traveled thousands of leagues across open ocean basins to reach this specific bay, guided by an ancient instinct written into her DNA. Like many apex sharks of the ancient world, she does not lay eggs in the sand, nor does she leave her young unformed to the mercy of the sea. She carries them within her, nourishing them through their earliest stages until they are fully developed, ready to meet the ocean as miniature masterpieces of design. When the moment arrives, she gives birth to live young, right in the heart of the warm lagoon. Even at the very beginning of its life, a newborn megalodon is a sight of remarkable beauty and scale. Spanning more than 2 meters from its rounded snout to the tip of its crescent tail, the infant shark enters the world larger and more formidable than almost any full-grown shark swimming in our modern oceans today. Yet, despite its impressive length, it possesses all the gentle clumsiness of youth. Its broad body is sleek and soft, its color a lighter slate gray that blends seamlessly with the sun-dappled sand floor of the lagoon. Its dark, curious eyes adjust slowly to the shimmering light, taking in the warm green universe that will be its home for years to come. The mother does not remain in the shallows for long. Her vast bulk requires the deep, open waters, and her work here is complete. With a slow, majestic sweep of her massive tail, she glides back toward the deeper channels, leaving her offspring in the safe, quiet nursery where large oceanic predators cannot follow. The shallows are too narrow, too low for the true giants of the open sea, creating a protected sanctuary where the young shark can learn the language of the ocean without fear. For the young megalodon, life in the nursery is an endless, sun-filled afternoon. The lagoon is alive with a rich, effortless bounty suited perfectly for a growing hunter. Tiny pressure waves ripple through the warm water as schools of silver fish dart through the submerged mangrove roots. Small, primitive stingrays rest half buried in the warm sand, their tails making soft, delicate thrums in the current. Early species of marine turtles paddle lazily across the seagrass meadows, their smooth shells catching the liquid gold of the midday sun. Here, the juvenile shark discovers its senses. It floats weightlessly in the shallows, its lateral line picking up the subtle, playful vibrations of the nursery. It learns to read the gentle electrical pulses of the sand, tracing the hidden heartbeats of small rays resting beneath the sediment. Its first hunts are not grand battles of strength, but patient, curious explorations. It practiced turning swiftly in tight circles among the mangrove roots, refining its coordination, learning how to use its pectoral fins to brake and steer through narrow coral passages. When it strikes at a small fish or a passing crab, it does so with a sudden, instinctual grace, testing the power of its sharp, newly formed teeth no larger than a coin, yet already perfectly serrated and built for the life ahead. To view the megalodon through the lens of its youth is to soften the terrifying myth into the reality of a living, breathing animal. It was not born a monster of the abyss. It was a creature that experienced a long, peaceful childhood. It spent years playing in the sunlit shallows, resting on warm sandbanks during the heat of the day, and taking shelter beneath the overhanging roots of ancient trees when tropical rainstorms softened the surface of the lagoon into a shimmering mist. Growth for this titan was a slow, majestic process that spanned decades. Year after year, the juvenile shark remained within the protective embrace of the coastal nursery, feeding on the rich abundance of the bay, growing stronger and more confident with every passing season. As the years turned into decades, its body broadened, its muscles dense and powerful, and its dark countershading deepened to match the changing depths it began to explore. Gradually, the boundaries of the nursery began to feel small. The young shark, now a sturdy subadult stretching 4, then 6, then 8 meters in length, started to venture closer to the outer edges of the reef. It would linger in the deep channels where the warm green lagoon water met the cool, dark blue of the open ocean. It would feel the heavy, rolling pulse of the deep sea passing beneath its body, a wide, mysterious world calling it outward toward its true destiny. As the sun hangs low and red over the ancient horizon, casting long amber shadows across the quiet lagoon, the young titan turns its snout toward the open sea for the final time. It glides smoothly through the barrier channel, leaving the warm, sunlit nursery behind. Ahead lies the vast, endless ocean, a kingdom of deep blue, migrating whale pods, and boundless horizons waiting for its rule. As you float in the peaceful sanctuary of your own mind, picture that calm, sun-warmed lagoon resting beneath the silent sky. The clear green water ripples softly over the white sand, carrying away the traces of the day. All is quiet, protected, and still. The young giant has moved outward into the great deep, leaving the nursery in complete, timeless peace. You are weightless, warm, and entirely safe, cradled by the calm, rhythmic breathing of the ancient sea as it carries you gently, effortlessly, into a deep and dreamless sleep. Chapter 10. Rivals of the Deep. It was a world so rich, so heavy with life, that even a ruler as absolute as the great apex shark shared the deep blue wilderness with other colossal titans of the primeval world. To imagine these ancient seas is to realize that nature, in its golden age of marine power, was experimenting with majesty on more than one canvas. While the great shark ruled the water column with silent, cold-blooded precision, the surface waters and the sunlit upper depths were home to another lineage of giants. These were the predatory air breathers, ancient cousins of the modern sperm whale that had abandoned the gentle, filter-feeding ways of their kin to become formidable hunters in their own right. Among these magnificent ocean dwellers, one name echoes through the halls of paleontology with quiet reverence: Leviathan, a creature named after the ancient mythic Leviathan and the author who gave the world the legend of the white whale. Leviathan was not a gentle browser of the deep trenches, nor did it restrict its diet to squid in the dark abyssal canyons. It was a massive, warm-blooded titan stretching across the warm currents with a sleek, muscular body that rivaled the great shark itself in size and weight. Where the modern sperm whale possesses teeth only in its narrow lower jaw, suited for suction feeding in the pitch-black abyss, Leviathan carried an array of colossal, interlocking teeth in both its upper and lower jaws. These were heavy, ivory pillars, thicker and longer than even the massive serrated blades of the great shark, rooted deep within a skull constructed like a battering ram of solid bone. It was an air-breathing hunter of extraordinary intelligence and physical power, designed by millions of years of evolution to hunt the same medium and large baleen whales that sustained the great apex shark. Picture floating quietly in the mid-water column of a vast Miocene basin, suspended between the bright, shimmering surface and the shadowy green depths below. The water is clear, warm, and rich with the low-frequency songs of migrating whale pods. From miles away, a sound begins to ripple through the sea, a sound unlike anything produced by the quiet, gill-breathing fishes. It is a slow, rhythmic series of intense, metallic clicks that vibrate through the water column, vibrating gently against your skin. This is the echolocation of Leviathan, a powerful acoustic searchlight cast by a massive, oil-filled melon housed within the whale's towering forehead. Through these sonic pulses, the whale constructs a flawless three-dimensional image of its underwater world, bouncing sound waves off distant reefs, clouds of fish, and the dark, massive bodies of other marine giants. In the same stretch of ocean, drifting quietly beneath a thermal layer where the water transitions from turquoise to deep emerald, the great apex shark moves on its eternal patrol. Its lateral line, sensitive to the subtle pressure variations of the sea, registers the heavy rhythmic beat of Leviathan's tail flukes. At the same time, the acoustic clicks of the whale wash over the shark's body, subtle sound waves that ripple across its dark, sensitive skin. The shark does not possess echolocation, nor does it make a sound, yet its acute sensory systems perceive the whale with absolute clarity. It feels the displaced mass of water, the warm electrical signature radiating from the mammal's active muscles, and the distinct chemical scent trail drifting down from the surface where the whale has just exhaled a towering cloud of sea spray into the warm afternoon air. These moments of encounter were rare in the vastness of the global ocean, yet when they occurred, they created a quiet, breathless tension that thrilled the very floor of the sea. It was not a chaotic battle of mindless monsters, for nature at this scale operates with a calm, calculated wisdom. True apex predators rarely seek out unnecessary conflict with rivals of equal weight, knowing that even a victorious struggle carries the risk of injury in a world where strength is survival. Instead, an encounter between the great shark and Leviathan was a spectacle of quiet, mutual recognition, a meeting of two distinct philosophies of life, brought together by the shared richness of the ancient sea. Imagine watching from a safe, weightless distance as these two titans cross paths near the edge of a sunlit continental shelf. The whale moves near the surface, its dark, glistening back breaking the water as it draws a deep, rhythmic breath, the sound echoing across the glassy surface like a soft gust of wind. It dives gently, angling downward into the green twilight, its broad tail flukes pushing against the water with majestic, unhurried power. Below it, rising slowly from the cooler depths, the great shark glides upward, its broad, dark silhouette outlined against the pale blue light filtering down from above. As the distance between them narrows to a few hundred yards, the ocean seems to hold its breath. The smaller creatures of the sea, the silver schools of fish, the sea turtles, the small dolphins glide away into the shadows, leaving a wide, quiet arena for the two monarchs. The whale continues its slow, rhythmic click, turning its broad head slightly to sweep its acoustic beam across the shark's massive form. It perceives the immense girth of the fish, the dense density of its cartilaginous skeleton, and the effortless, hydrodynamic perfection of its design. The shark, swaying its broad snout slowly from side to side, tastes the warm, oxygen-rich water flowing off the whale's flanks, feeling the rhythmic thrum of a heart that beats with the steady power of a living engine. For several quiet, mesmerizing minutes, the two leviathans glide in parallel paths through the emerald water. There is no sudden aggression, no frantic thrashing, only a profound, silent assessment. They are two master architects of the Miocene Ocean, each respecting the immense physical force represented by the other. The whale knows that the shark possesses a bite capable of severing limbs and crushing the heavy rib cages of the largest whales. The shark recognizes that the whale possesses formidable jaw leverage, high intelligence, and the physical weight to deliver devastating blunt impacts. They move side by side, like two planetary bodies passing in quiet orbit, bound by the unwritten laws of a timeless ecosystem. Gradually, without a single aggressive gesture, the tension dissolves back into the vast blue horizon. The whale, needing to replenish its lungs, arches its powerful back and ascends gently toward the golden light of the surface, its blowhole opening as it breaks the veil between sea and sky. The great shark, preferring the shadowed cool of the lower water column, banks smoothly to the left, its broad pectoral fins carving a wide, serene arc through the current as it sinks back toward the quiet depths. The ocean expands between them once more, holding both giants in its endless embrace, vast enough to nourish their hunger and accommodate their grandeur. Yet, as the epochs unfolded and the millions of years drifted by like sand through an hourglass, the history of the ancient seas recorded a quiet, undeniable truth. While predatory whales like Leviathan were magnificent, intelligence-driven marvels of their era, they were bound to specific environmental niches and evolutionary windows. As the climate slowly cooled and the distribution of baleen whales began to shift toward the icy polar regions, many of these warm-blooded ocean predators faced growing challenges, eventually fading into the quiet pages of Earth's history. Through all these shifts, the great apex shark remained the ultimate, enduring monarch of the deep. It possessed a body refined over hundreds of millions of years of shark evolution, a design so complete, so adaptable, and so overwhelmingly powerful that nothing in the ancient world ever truly dethroned it. It was the ultimate expression of predatory mastery, a living monument of weight, strength, and sensory perfection that outlasted its rivals and ruled the global ocean until the very fabric of the prehistoric world began to transform. As you float peacefully in the quiet sanctuary of your room, let the memory of these ancient rivals fade into a soothing, distant murmur. The great whales and the legendary shark have finished their long, majestic patrol through the sunlit waters of deep time. The ancient ocean rests in complete, unbroken peace, its wide blue surface reflecting the silent light of timeless stars. You are weightless, safe, and completely relaxed, supported by the soft, rhythmic rise and fall of your own breathing. The vast, quiet waters wrap gently around you, dissolving all thought, carrying you softly, effortlessly, down into the deepest, most tranquil levels of sleep. Chapter 11. The Warming Sea. For eons, the world was an unbroken cradle of liquid warmth, a seamless blue expanse where equatorial currents flowed freely around the globe. But slowly, imperceptibly, the foundation of this golden era began to shift. Deep beneath the surface, the slow, tectonic grind of the earth pulled land masses together, gradually closing the Central American Seaway. The vital aquatic bridge connecting vast ocean basins slowly choked off, severing the warm, circumequatorial current that had kept the world's waters balmy and uniform for millions of years. This was not a sudden catastrophe, nor a dramatic upheaval felt over a single lifetime. It was a slow, geological dimming, a quiet cooling that reshaped the planet millimeter by millimeter, epoch by epoch. As the seaway closed, global ocean currents were forced into new, colder pathways. The gentle, shallow, tropical seas that had cradled generations of marine life began to recede and cool. Ice caps expanded at the poles, locking away immense volumes of water, lowering sea levels, and shrinking the sun-drenched coastal nurseries where the great apex shark had once reigned supreme. With the cooling water came a profound transformation in the rhythm of life itself. The small and medium-sized baleen whales, the reliable, abundant sustenance that had fueled the Titan's colossal frame, began to decline. In their place arose larger, sleeker whale species adapted for long, arduous migrations toward the freezing, nutrient-rich polar waters. The rich upwellings and predictable feeding grounds scattered across the warm coastal shelves began to fragment and fade. The ocean was becoming vast, open, and increasingly empty of the easy abundance that had sustained an apex predator of unprecedented scale. For the giant hunter, the change was not a visible threat, but a subtle, pervasive absence. The warm currents it had ridden for millennia now felt slightly crisp at the edges, carrying different scents and unfamiliar thermal boundaries. The vast, three-dimensional sensory web that once buzzed with the constant pulse of nearby life grew quiet for longer stretches. Days turned into weeks, and weeks into a month, without the familiar pressure wave of a migrating whale pod echoing through the gloom, far out in the open ocean, suspended in a cool, deep green twilight. The ancient titan glides onward. Its massive tail sways in slow, deliberate arcs, pushing a bulk that has gone unfed for weeks through an ocean that feels subtly, inexplicably altered. The water holds a new chill. The light above seems paler, and the vast blue sanctuary that once belonged entirely to this giant is slowly, quietly becoming a world built for a different age. Chapter 12. The Last Megalodon. The end of a monarch rarely arrives with a sudden thunderclap or a dramatic collapse. Instead, for the great titan of the primeval seas, extinction was a quiet fade, a slow, thousand-year whisper echoing across an changing planet. Over endless centuries, as the warm, shallow seas vanished and the great whales migrated to the icy poles, the shadows in the deep simply grew fewer. One by one, in the vast cooling blue, the last megalodons lived out their centuries, their paths crossing less and less until the vast expanse between them became insurmountable. There was no final battle, no dramatic tragic ending, only a quiet, beautiful ocean growing steadily quieter, until a day arrived when the last great hunter swam its final mile, alone in the deep, and was peacefully folded back into the earth. Today, the ocean rolls on vast, cold, and vibrant with life. Modern blue whales glide through the sunbeams, sea turtles paddle along coastal reefs, and silver schools of fish dance in the light, oblivious to the giant shadow that once moved beneath them. Yet the sea has not forgotten. Deep beneath the shifting sands of ancient shorelines and along the quiet beaches where gentle waves break tonight, heavy fossilized teeth still wash ashore. They are quiet, dark monuments held in human hands, cool to the touch, carrying the silent weight of millions of years. They remind us that this planet was once ruled by quiet giants who swam through endless warm waters beneath the very same stars that watch over you now. As you lie here, safe and warm in the stillness of the night, imagine that ancient, boundless ocean cradling the earth. The water is deep, calm, and infinitely peaceful. The last great shadow glides smoothly through the dark emerald depths, its massive form moving with effortless, eternal grace, dissolving slowly, softly into the timeless blue. The ocean closes overhead, smooth as glass, carrying its memory into the quiet darkness. As you drift gently, deeply, into a peaceful and unbroken sleep.